What is going on, everyone? Chris from Pickdawgz.com here with the breakdown. We're going to be going over 8 college football games going down on Saturday, November 23rd, 2024, week 13 of the college football season. Crazy to believe. But if you're looking for my best bets, the games I love, head to Pickdawgz.com, click the Premium Picks tab at the top of the page, and don't forget to smash that thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We appreciate the support on our content. But, like I said, already crazy. We're almost a week away from the final week of the regular season. And then all of a sudden, conference championships are going to be here. The college football playoff bracket's going to be decided. And then bowl season. I mean, it's crazy. It just feels like just yesterday we were just doing our first breakdown of the season. But plenty of money to be made, plenty of winners to be had here. So without further ado, let's not wait any longer. You guys know the drill. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's get into it. Our first game comes to us at 12:45 p.m. Eastern. It is Georgia taking on UMass. Georgia, a massive 42.5-point favorite here, and rightfully so. It's the Georgia Bulldogs. It's the UMass Minutemen. It's all well and good. The problem for me, though, is that Georgia has had a tendency of playing with their food. Are they fully capable of coming in and blowing the doors off of UMass? Absolutely. That's why they're a 42.5-point favorite here. But we've seen Georgia in other spots this season as heavy favorites just come out and just, like I said, just do what has to be done and, just get the job done. They're not going to get style points for beating up on UMass, and they have a rivalry game against Georgia Tech on deck. This is a Georgia team that's just out here just to get the result. That's about it. UMass is coming in for the payday. But we've seen Georgia 33-point favorites against Mississippi State, won by 10 in games that meant more. Auburn, they were laying 21 and won by 18. They were laying 21.5 against Kentucky and almost lost outright. So I'm not saying that UMass is as good as any of those teams, but to lay 6 touchdowns and a hook with Georgia here just doesn't make sense to me. We've seen UMass just sneak in the back door, and even a 45-3 loss gets you home here with UMass. So I'm going to lean towards UMass here, plus the 42.5. Now we head to this matchup between App State and James Madison. James Madison is 7.5-point favorite in this one. And, the thing about JMU is that they have had a couple of blips this season where they've stumbled. But more often than not, this is a James Madison team that's been able to take care of business. They're 6-4 against the spread this season. But what stands out for me is that App State has just been so bad defensively at times this season, especially when they're taking steps up in competition. Against Marshall, they gave up 52 points. Against South Alabama, gave up 48. Gave up 34 to Louisiana, 38 to Coastal Carolina. And I get it, the majority of those have actually been on the road. And at home, they are 3-1 this season. But James Madison has an offense that can put points up on the board in bunches. They have scored 32 plus in 4 of their last 5 conference games, all victories for the most part by margin. And I think that they can do the same here against App State. App State's still struggling to put out, consistent tackling. They've let a lot of guys slip away, and James Madison is just a team that can break through. They have game breakers left and right throughout this lineup. I think James Madison the better team, and they have to win this game to keep any sliver of hope of making the Sun Belt title game alive. They play Marshall next week, and Georgia Southern does own the tiebreaker over James Madison. So if James Madison can get some help and they can win out, this could be a James Madison team that can make the Sun Belt title game. I think they come out and I think they deliver, a convincing victory here. Give me JMU laying the points. Next, we head to this matchup between TCU and Arizona going down at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'll tell you, TCU, a double-digit favorite, even at home here. And it makes sense. They're coming off the big win over Oklahoma State. But realistically, am I that eager to lay 10.5 points with TCU here? No. Arizona, yeah, this is a down year for Arizona when you compare it to last year's record where they just absolutely crushed it. A lot of it had to do with the fact that they had the coaching change from Jed Fish to now Brent Brennan. And there have been times where Arizona's been crushed on the road. I mean, their two most recent conference road games, they lost 56-12 to UCF and 41-19 to BYU. But this is an Arizona team that still has one of the better, receiver and quarterback tandems in Noah Fafita and Tedoroa McMillan. And while Fafita hasn't necessarily been the same as he was last season, he's still a guy that can put up 65% completion percentage, air it out here. And this TCU defense, while the numbers on the surface are solid season long, I still don't necessarily have faith in TCU. They've been in a lot of close games down the stretch. You look at some of their recent results. 37-34 loss to Baylor. They narrowly got by Texas Tech 35-34. And the fact of the matter is, this is an Arizona team that needs to win out if they're going to have any shot at going to a bowl game. TCU has already clinched bowl eligibility. They're playing for nothing but pride at this point. I'm going to take Arizona here plus the 10.5. Next, we head to this matchup between Arkansas State and Louisiana Monroe. And, I get why, Louisiana Monroe could be worth a look here. They have the motivation of bowl eligibility hanging in the balance here. And this is a team that started the year 5-1, and they have some decent wins this season. So there's no saying they couldn't go on the road and get the job done here. But the problem for me is that you have to go back to 2009 for the last time that Louisiana Monroe beat Arkansas State. And this is still an Arkansas State team that is very, very solid from an offensive standpoint. They got a great quarterback in Jalen Rayner. Louisiana Monroe's been running the quarterback carousel, maybe trying to confuse opponents, but I'll tell you, the Warhawks have struggled lately. They lost by 29 to South Alabama, lost a heartbreaker to Marshall, got crushed at home by Texas State, and then they had their game against Auburn. And next week's a game against Louisiana, so you can say that this is do or die for ULM. Problem is, I think the Warhawks are dead if this is the matchup, because, like I said, the matchup that A-State has dominated. So give me Arkansas State here, laying the 2.5. Next, we head to this matchup between Arizona State and BYU, and we saw the cracks finally break the levee for BYU. They had their chances to try to run the table, just did not happen. Now they're 9-1 on the year, and the college football playoff bracket is sort of in flux. Now, granted, Kansas has one of the more lethal running ground attacks in the Big 12 with Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal leading the charge. But Arizona State still has a solid run game of their own. Sam Levitt, sort of a poor man's Jalen Daniels, because he can move the ball on the ground with his feet. They got one of the better running backs and more underappreciated running backs in the Big 12 in Cam Scatabo. And I think that Arizona State's got something going here. Kenny Dillingham has got this Sun Devils team believing. And there's sort of an outside chance that Arizona State could do some damage and maybe even make the Big 12 title game here. I think Arizona State at home can get the job done. I think this place is going to be rocking for a matchup against BYU. And like I said, we've seen BYU playing with fire in recent weeks. They had the 1-point win over Utah on the road where they needed a miracle. They escaped Baylor with a win earlier this season. They escaped Oklahoma State at home. I think that this BYU team is going to start to fall apart. I'm going to go with Arizona State in this one. I'm going to lay the 3. I think they win this one by at least a touchdown. Next, we head to this matchup between Minnesota and Penn State. And for me in this one, I look at Penn State and I just have to ask myself one question every time I see them on the field. Are they playing Ohio State? Because if not, they're good to go. This is a Penn State team that needs to keep winning by margin to give themselves a case to make to the College Football Playoff Committee. Penn State's won it back-to-back weeks against Washington at home 35-6, and then at Purdue 49-10. I know those wins don't necessarily say anything. Minnesota, though, is only at playing spoiler at this point. They've already clinched bowl eligibility. There's, nothing for them to play for here outside of it being senior day. But I don't even know if that's going to be enough to slow down a Penn State team that's playing with some motivation here. Penn State, yeah, they haven't had necessarily the toughest of schedules, but they've been able to take care of business when they've had to. And more often than not this season, they have been blowing teams out. So and James Franklin, also a coach to begin with, even before this whole style, was a coach that rarely would take his foot off the gas anyways. So I'm going to take Penn State. I'm going to lay the 11.5 in this one. Next, we head to this matchup between North Texas and East Carolina. And North Texas went from a team that was putting points on the board in bunches earlier this season to now giving them up in bunches. I mean, they've given up at least 37 points in four of their last 5 games. The one outlier was that 14-3 loss to Army. But even then, even though they're giving up the points, they're still able to score some of their own, as this is a North Texas team that's hit the over in 7 of their last 8 games and is doing so by margin more often than not. Now, last week, they barely snuck over the total in that 48-27 loss to UTSA, but I think they can get back up and over it again here. This is an East Carolina team that has found themselves offensively in the last 3 weeks against some porous defenses. But we're talking about an East Carolina team that looked dead in the water. Then you make the quarterback change to Caden Hauser, and it just clicks for East Carolina. 56 points against Temple, 49 against FAU, 38 in the win over Tulsa on the road. So for me in this one, I got to go back to the over here. I think this is going to be a track meet. Little defense being played in this one. I can see this one easily getting into the 80s. So give me the over 72.5 between North Texas and East Carolina. Our final game on this week's breakdown takes us to the matchup between USC and UCLA, and I get why USC would be favored here. The quarterback change to Mayava has started to look good for USC from a talent perspective. I know Miller Moss was still a highly touted prospect, but still, USC been able to get the win at home against Nebraska, and now they take on a UCLA team that historically has been able to be a thorn in their side, and the road team has actually covered each of the last 4 meetings between these two teams. But I think that this is where that could change, because UCLA has started to find themselves offensively in recent weeks. And, even though they lost to Washington 31-19 last time out, I'm not going to hold that against UCLA, because a lot of teams have gone to Washington and fallen flat. This is also a UCLA team that broke down Iowa and got the job done. They got the win at Nebraska, at Rutgers, and they've started to figure it out, to close out the year. A USC team that, up next has Notre Dame to close out the schedule. There could be a little bit of a look ahead there for USC. But the fact of the matter is that USC shouldn't look ahead, because they do need to win out to, or at least win one of their next 2 games for bowl eligibility. And this would seem like the winnable spot. But UCLA has to win out. They only have 2 games left. They're at 4-6. So I think it's going to be a highly competitive matchup. Even if USC wins this game, I could see it being by a late field goal. I'm going to take UCLA here plus the 4.5 to round things out. That's your Week 13 college football breakdown for Saturday, November 23rd, 2024. Again, if you like this content, make sure you smash that thumbs up, subscribe to our channel. Let me know your college football picks in the comment section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, the games that I absolutely love, including my daily $15 best bet, make sure you head over to pickdawgz.com, click the premium picks tab at the top of the page, use the promo code PICK at checkout for an additional 15% off your purchase. This is a great time to jump on long term, because you're going to have a loaded card on Saturday with college football, college basketball, NBA, NFL Sunday is going to be included in there. And a lot of times with me, those 3 and 7 day passes are actually less than buying each of Saturday's daily packages individually. So make sure you check it out over at pickdawgz.com. But again, appreciate each and every one of you for joining me. Let's make some money. Let's cash some winners. We'll see you guys soon.